some actually find the ground at that torch. We spoke with an organizer earlier this morning, and he told us that because of some of these earlier protests, a lot of the people who are participating, the actual torchbearers, are having to reconsider their own safety. And he did tell us that one of those torchbearers has dropped out.
We have heard of one torchbearer who will not be carrying a torch, and out of respect for that person's privacy, I'm not really sure what the torch that name. But I understand anyone that might feel that they don't want to expose themselves to something more than protest. So we do know of one person so far.
And there was one small-scale demonstration here in the San Francisco area yesterday, highly organized. 3 people with harnesses, with helmets, actually scaled up the Golden Gate Bridge, unfurled some banners and a Tibetan flag, saying they were protesting China's human rights record. Thousands more protesters are expected to take to the streets today into tomorrow. That relay expected to actually kick off at about 1 o'clock local time tomorrow afternoon. Now, local authorities say they have put a number of precautions into place. They're going to have firefighters as well as ambulances along that route, and they're also scaling back the route. It used to be 8 miles, it's already 6, and they tell us that tomorrow, as the conditions exist, they may even curtail that further or make certain changes as necessary. Back to you.
Again, we saw in Paris and in London these sort of rings, allegedly rings of security to keep the protesters out, which apparently failed in both cities. Cara, do you know the authorities and the police in particular planning the same sort of strategy, or they are going to be adopting something different there?
Haven't learned a lot of the exact details of their plans, and they keep telling us that they're changing, and they will kind of, and perhaps in part they don't want everyone to know exactly what their plan of protection is, but they do say that they will remain very mobile and that they will be changing and that they will have extra forces on the streets to try and maintain order. They're hoping, they say, that demonstrators will maintain that order themselves, but just in case, they say they will have forces on hand.
All right, Cara Finn from San Francisco Airport. Thanks very much for that. Well, China, meanwhile, is keeping an eye on the protests, and it doesn't like what it's being seen. The Chinese Foreign Ministry calls the demonstrations, quote, despicable, and blames Tibetan separatists. Now, Eunice Yoon has more on Beijing's reaction.
Protesters along the Olympic torch relay route speaking out against Beijing. People in China indignant about the protesters.
These people are just anti-Chinese.
The Chinese are frustrated with these people for grabbing at the Olympic torch, causing their country to lose face on the international stage. Beijing is calling the demonstrations despicable.
These people are trying to use the Olympics to achieve the unspeakable goal of defaming China. Their attempts will definitely fail.
Beijing Olympic organizers have vowed the relay will continue despite the protests and say no force can stop it. Nevertheless, the demonstrations have sparked a debate among Olympic organizers after International Olympic Committee head Jacques Roggi said he's very concerned about the situation in Tibet.
I think IOC must try to solve the problem.
There is no intervention in the politics and sports. Sports is a sport, politics is a politics.
The IOC's Kevin Gosper is now suggesting organizers scrap extensive international torch routes for future games to avoid relay disruptions. He gave his view on the protests.
Whilst we see these demonstrations by people with the grievances attacking the Olympic torch, raising the Olympic torch, it's not a true reflection of public opinion.
The Chinese media, for the most part, are glossing over the demonstrations. The headline about the torch relay in this state-run newspaper reads, "French passion breeds torch in Paris." The main focus of the media here, tourist attractions and local residents furious at the protesters. The mention of the rally's cause, China's human rights record, and its crackdown in Tibet. Many citizens here say it's the Western media that's unfair. Even so, the protests overseas are causing some people, like this teacher, to think.